Reminder for props, if you have a rolled up towel, blanket, or pillow, our starting pose, if you'd like to join me there, would be Shavasana with that rolled up towel between the shoulder blades so that when you lay back, you're a little bit off the floor, so you get a little bit more opening in the chest. And then if you have a pillow, block, book, something that you can rest your low back on in a supported bridge pose, that will also be nice today too. So if you're not already there, I invite you to join me in a comfortable resting posture. My invitation is to be on your back and try out that towel. Maybe if you have a second yoga mat that you have rolled up. You could get creative with other things that you have nearby. I'm looking around like, what would I do? Oh, maybe a rolled up tablecloth that I have over there. And if it feels nice, go ahead and let your shoulders drape over either side. But truly, you can start in any posture that feels good for you. Somewhere where you can settle in. And just start to notice what's around you. What do you see, hear, taste, smell, or touch? And even if you just pick one of your senses, see what kind of data that you can collect. So maybe you just notice what you hear. And try to stay present to whatever it is. So if the mind starts to wander to the possibility that birds are again building a nest in your air conditioning unit, just try to bring the mind back to noticing all the smells in all the sounds in your space. Or if you're doing sight or touch, just take inventory. Keeping yourself grounded to this present space. So in our next hour, your role is to breathe and to move as much as you'd like. Choosing everything with intention. No need to do what I do. I'm just offering some suggestions throughout. As long as you are breathing and moving or not moving with intention, you've got a yoga practice going. If you've just joined, welcome. We're just getting started noticing things through our 5 senses, possibly lying on a rolled up towel so that shoulder blades can drape over either side. If you haven't already started to notice your breath, go ahead and draw your attention there. As you notice the pace of your breathing and the depth of your breathing, also notice the temperature and the humidity of your breath. Now, if you're feeling warm, humid, active, energized, if you'd like to balance that out with a cooling breath, we can try it here. We'll also try it again seated. It's just an option. As you breathe in and out, 2 ways that you could try on Shikali or a cooling breath. It's one cooling breath. Is either purse your lips like you're sipping through a straw, or curl your tongue To create a straw with your tongue, breathing in and out through that straw that you've created. And you'll notice if you purse your lips or do that kind of straw drinking breath, it will have a cooler temperature. And if you pair that cool inhale with a long and full exhale, it might help to find a cooler energy in the body. And you could try that on just a few times and come back to normal breath. If you feel like it serves you, you want to keep it going or add it in when we're doing other movements or postures, you can switch over to that type of breath. Okay, if you've got your shoulders draped, maybe take your arms out to the T even wider. Let your shoulders get heavier, chest more expansive. We'll take a few brief stretches here on our back. If the towel or pillow under you feels okay, you can keep it there. I'm going to go ahead and move mine, rolling to the side. Getting that towel out of the way, let's bring the right knee in towards the chest. So I have my left foot on the ground just for more low back support because that feels good in my body today. Yours might be stretched out. And as you hug the right knee in, wind releasing pose, you're welcome to find stretches in the feet or the toes or the legs. So if it feels good to add in an ankle circle or a point and a flex of the foot, maybe reaching the leg straight out, maybe dropping the knee in and out, finding a little mobility in the right hip. Or you might stay still and breathe. Just notice where you feel sensation. It may be where you expect, so in the crease of my right hip. Might be where you don't expect, so when I tune in, I realize I'm clenching my left glutes. Because I'm realizing I'm kind of balancing here. I can actually let that go. I can release there and just let the floor hold me. All right, let's take this into a little twist. So if it feels good, bring the right knee across. You can open the arms back up to a T. It might feel nice to have pillows or blocks under the knee. Because my knee does not touch down with both my shoulders down, I'm actually just going to plant my right foot like a kickstand. And again, your work here is to find intention. So maybe you decide, I want maximum comfort. And for me, that means I'm actually going to roll onto one side. Use a towel as a pillow. Not really make this much of a twist. Or maybe you decide I've been quite lethargic today. I need kind of a big stretch just to feel a little bit of vibrancy again. So just take what you need from each posture. Let's come out of the twist. Another little squeeze, right knee to chest, and we'll switch sides. Left knee towards the chest. Maybe staying still focus on breath or observation. Maybe moving at the different joint areas. And whether you found stillness or movement, just every so often check in. How's this working for me? Anything I want to change or adjust? When you're ready, we'll take this side into a twist. Left knee across. You can bring it all the way to the ground. Open back up to a T. Maybe drop the knee down onto something. Maybe plant that left foot on the floor. And if you always bring your arms out to a T, maybe you want to try something new, reaching one arm up overhead. Sometimes we'll do this as twisted vine. That long, slow breath. As long as it's feeling comfortable for you, sends the message to rest and digest, especially the long exhales. All right, we'll take that knee back to center. Both feet on the floor, knees towards the ceiling. Let's just windshield wiper the knees side to side. And you decide if you want to keep your hips completely stable, no twisting at the belly, or maybe you want to let the hips drop as well. More twist of the spine. Okay, this next pose or two, we'll do two poses on our belly. If you prefer not to be on your belly, and you can meet me there now, you're welcome to come up against a wall. Most of these things can be done standing up against the wall, sometimes sitting up against the wall, or you can take some other pose that feels more comfortable for you. Let's first do a little chest opening stretch. We'll begin just in a neutral crocodile pose. Forehead can be on backs of forearms, toes on the ground, heels can flop open. Spine is long, body can sink in. If you're going to be standing up against a wall, you can just gently rest your forehead on the wall in front of you. Okay, I'm going to move so that I can continue to face you here. But we're going to begin by sliding the right hand. This is called 8-angle pose. Some of you have done this with me before. We'll start by sliding the right hand. I'm actually going to do it with my right hand. The right hand straight out from your shoulder. So arm is flat on the mat. Just be mindful that the hand isn't reaching down more towards the hips or up overhead. Straight out, 90-degree angle. Now start to shift your weight so that you roll onto that right arm. You might get your left shoulder lifted just a little bit and feel quite a bit of stretch there in the front of the right armpit area. So front of the chest, front of that shoulder, just in front of the armpit. Here you might slip a couple pillows under your left side and stay here. If you want more sensation, You can roll yourself completely onto the right side as the arm is extended out. My right arm is extended out behind me. Another angle you might add is taking that top leg, stamping the foot on the floor, acts as a kickstand. Again, checking in that that right arm is straight out. You might notice that shoulder has risen towards ear. Try to slide that away. If you want more angles, again, this says 8 available. You could bend your left knee, the bottom leg, the right knee, bottom leg, and reach your left arm back to that right foot. That is a big stretch and a lot of sensation, probably in the right arm. So all of these additional angles are optional. You can always roll back towards chest, open that left shoulder up a little bit more. If you were doing this standing up, you'd be up against the wall. Press that right arm down and turn the left shoulder away from the wall. Turning as much as you'd like to feel the amount of sensation that's useful for you. If you're in a space where you can't really get to the floor to do this, doing this up against the wall can be a nice relief if your chest is feeling really constrained, collapsed. Okay, take 3 more breaths here. With no rush at all, you can come back onto your belly and just slowly bring that right arm back down towards your side. Maybe you rest with both arms down at your side. Maybe you bring them back under the forehead. Take a few breaths to reset. I'll move again so I can continue to face you. And when you're ready, left arm reaches directly out. Notice once you press that arm down, if your shoulder has crept up towards your ears, slide it down the back. Open up the right shoulder towards the ceiling as much as you'd like. Right foot could be a kickstand. There's no rush and no end game. So there's not an expression that you need to get to. You are here to breathe, to notice, and to adjust when you'd like to, or when you need to. Depending on how much you want that right shoulder coming back, you could reach for your left foot. I don't make that connection, but I do like the openness for me. So I'm just going to tuck my right hand behind my right back to keep my chest quite open. If your teeth are together, I invite you to separate them. Remove the tongue from the roof of your mouth. Just looking for areas that tend to contract or hold some tension, and giving the reminder for them to soften when possible. Take about 3 more breaths here. And you can make little micro adjustments. What does it feel like if you squeeze your shoulder blade just ever so slightly? You release your shoulder. And then when you're ready, come on back to the belly. Just a few breaths here. Let's get in a spine strengthener, Sphinx or seal. Sphinx with the forearms down, elbows under shoulders, fingers spread wide. Bring the shoulders back, chest forward. And it might feel nice to have pillows or blankets under the belly, under the torso. More sensation, hands can come out as wide as your mat or further. Arms can lengthen and straighten. Pressing the torso off the mat. Again, pillows or blankets might feel nice there. Notice if your glutes are clenched. If you loosen them, how does that feel? For less in the low back, walk your hands out. For more sensation in the low back, walk your hands in. And shoulder blades can squeeze together. Again, chest is really broad. This can feel pretty active for a restore class. You're just building a little bit of strength so that our resting posture is not a collapsed forward chest. That tends to be a norm for us with computers and everything. So just giving ourselves the opposite here so we can tell the difference. Maybe find a healthy or neutral. Okay, you may have already come down to your belly. If you haven't, slowly release. A couple breaths here, neutral spine, long spine. Heels can flop open. Maybe arms even reach ahead. When you're ready, we'll press back to child's pose. So coming up to your knees, taking the knees out as wide as you'd like, big toes towards each other, hips sit back towards the heels. Pillows, blankets, blocks might feel nice here under belly or head. I'm going to go ahead and add one under my torso. Go ahead and add a block under my head. And you find what you'd like tonight. It might be a long spine stretch, arms reach. Might be elbows bent. Just relaxing. And as things enter your mind, they kind of take you out of the present, or perhaps add emotions that are not that useful. So for me, it's, my air conditioner's loud, I'm starting to get warm. The humidity's kind of frustrating. I don't feel as good in my body. Okay, I've taken a turn here. Just notice If your thoughts have gone down a particular path, and gently bring them back. Consider something else on a different path. Some other area of the body, something you notice from one of your different senses. Just acknowledging a particular thought or emotion that you're feeling. If you have turned your head in one direction like I have, you have just a little bit longer, you might want to turn your head to the opposite side now. And there's no obligation to find balance. We do not live lives of symmetry. So it is okay to not have that in our yoga practice. There's no rush to move. We're headed to tabletop for a little bit of cat and cow. You can take as many breaths as you would like to get there. And as you arrive, moving your spine in at least 2 directions here. And I invite you to be kind of dramatic about it. Over-articulate the different parts of your spine. Maybe give more power to your breath, making inhales or exhales audible. Just seeing if as you move, can you feel your low back, mid back, between the shoulder blades, top of back? Can you move each part of the spine? Now you may stay in cat and cow, child's pose, tabletop, anything here. If you'd like to join me in a standing forward fold, we'll do that and then add a shoulder stretch in. So if you'd like to join me, step one foot, then the other. Head hangs. Feet can separate any amount. You could move side to side, forward and back. If you'd like to interlace hands behind your back, reach them high, let gravity draw the hands forward. That's an option. If that's a pretty high intensity, maybe you have something that you can hold between your hands. And then bring the arms overhead. It might even feel nice to just bring one hand reaching to the low back, then the other. And when you're ready to come back down, come to tabletop. Maybe take a few cat and cow. And then we'll find an easy seat. So gentle seat. If hips are tight, so if knees are lifted, I encourage you to tuck something, pillows, blankets, under the knees, so that you're supported in this position rather than feeling like you might be fighting against it. As you settle in, sit tall, curve in the low back, broad chest, chin tucks slightly, long back of neck, crown of the head reaches high. So just a little activation so we can maximize airflow here. Excuse me. When you're ready, we'll begin to stretch the neck. You can either drop the head, hold for a few breaths, take the head a different angle, a different direction, even turning. Or you could circle the head and neck. Be mindful if your spine tends to round and your shoulders slump forward as mine do. Keep those shoulders rolled back as you move the head. If you're circling the head and you've only moved in one direction, you can switch. Okay, finish your neck stretching. Head back to center. Let's inhale our arms up and overhead, reach tall. You could even look up. Exhale back down to the sides. Roll the shoulders back slightly as well. Inhale, arms reach up. You can look up. And again, arms reach back out and slightly back. This time, bring the arms, the shoulders directly into the ears. And roll them back and down. One more time. Shoulders up into the ears. And back and down. And let's go in the opposite direction. Shoulders into ears, rolling forward. And then up into ears. And back and down. Let's add just a little side body stretch. So reach over to the right side. You can clasp hands. Just notice if the left hip starts to come way off the mat. Come a little bit back to center, have a solid foundation, and then reach out from there. And if you notice your arms folding forward, just consider sliding them back. Let's go to the opposite side. And of course, hands overhead is just one option. You could also plant one hand and reach, or keep both hands down, reach the head. Okay, very good. Back to center. Let's take our left leg out, sole of the right foot into the left thigh. We'll do a brief head to knee pose. And then a counter stretch reaching back. So my left leg is out. If the knee has some bend in it, a pillow could be nice under there. And then you decide how much you want to fold forward. So pros and cons. Lowering the head or dropping the crown of the head tends to be cooling. A long spine tends to help with a little more airflow. You could reach for the foot or the ankle. Flexing that foot will deepen the hamstring stretch at the back of the leg. Leaving the foot just as it is, no flexing. You'll practice using gravity for support. As a counter stretch, if it feels good for you, lift the chest up. You can bring the right hand behind the right hip, shift the weight forward onto the right knee, press the hips up. Left arm can reach back. If this doesn't feel good on wrist or knee or heel, you could also do this seated, reaching back. Or bringing the right hand behind the hip, fingers facing forward, lifting the chest up. Actually, both hands back, lifting the chest up. Can be a nice chest opener, spine extension as well. So any of these options. And then come on down. Let's do the other side. You can shake out the legs. As you move to extend the right leg, sole of the left foot comes in, and it's just towards. They don't need to be touching. There isn't a special angle. Again, if you've got a bend in the knee, or for me, I tend to hyperextend and really push my knee joint down. So as a reminder to keep softness there, I like a pillow. And then you decide how much do you want to activate your leg, flexing the foot, reaching the heel forward. How much would you like to fold? Whatever you choose, though, see if you can settle in here for several breaths. Notice your mind in the present, or gently invite it back to something happening right here, right now. Whether that's a feeling, emotionally, a physical sensation. Noticing a thought that's occurring right now. And then we'll make our way out. Finding that counter stretch again. You can put your left hand behind you, lift the chest. Both hands behind you, lift the chest, fingers facing forward. Or press up onto that left knee, lift the hips, maybe circle the arm. When you're done, you can bring the hips back down. Okay, so we've done a little bit there to open the hips. You've got two options, and I'd love to spend about 4 minutes on either side. So I invite you to take either deer pose or half pigeon pose. You decide what's best for you. Let me set you up for deer pose. So right shin comes forward, left leg comes back. If hips aren't touching the ground, something comes underneath. Bring the ground to you. 90-degree angles is one visualization. Legs can also come out, get closer, up to you. You may stay here, fold forward, lay on your side. Maybe you want a pillow under your head or torso. You could also turn to the side, twist and fold. So you could be creative with that, or get that back leg, the bend there out of the equation, and just come onto that right shin. Left leg comes back. Chest lifts, maybe folds, half pigeon. And of course, taking this seated or on your back is another option. Figure 4 pose, lying down or seated. So we'll spend about 3 minutes or so now on the right side. And it's so interesting. Without a plan, I came right back to this sole of the foot, knee to nose pose. So maybe that's what I have intuited that I want to spend. But I'm going to go ahead and set up deer pose. For me. Just a bit more time on this side. If there's anything that you want to shift or try differently or kind of be creative about, use a few breaths to do that. Then decide what your exit strategy is from this pose. So if you're in half pigeon, do you want to roll onto your hip? Do you want to take it downward facing dog? If you're in deer pose, do you want to twist, then push up, or push up and then shake out the legs? Put a little thought behind it as you start to move. Unrelated to a restore class, but most of our injuries tend to be in transition. And just as a metaphor for transitions in our life, if you can add a little bit of intention, just recognize where you have control of something, your body in this case. It's a useful practice. Okay, let's do another 4 minutes or so on the left side. You might pick a totally different pose, or you might stick with the same. So left knee is turned out. Maybe your right leg is straight in a half pigeon. Maybe that leg has the hip is internally rotated, knee down. Again, your creativity is welcomed. So if you fit in a little twist or stretch that feels good for you, you can add that in. Maybe you want to try a couple of cooling breaths. And if your mind wanders or you get restless or you decide to change positions, all that's really normal. Just find a place where you can settle in, even if it's just for one breath. And you can always do that again for the next breath, and the one after that. Again, before we start any kind of transition, just giving it a little bit of consideration. What do I have control over here? How do I want to use that control? So for me, I'm not close enough to turn on my air conditioner, but I know I want to be a little bit cooler. So one of the choices I'm going to make is as I transition, I'm going to pass through tabletop and take a few big exhales. Let my head hang. That tends to be a little cooler for me. Now our meeting point will be on our backs. If you have something to lift your low back onto, whether that's a few pillows, book, block, or if you happen to be close enough to a piece of furniture or a wall that you could bring your legs up there, maybe drape them over a chair, bring the legs totally up the wall. I want you, if you can, to get the experience of having a lot of support under the low back. So as you arrive on your back, do whatever feels good, shaking out the legs, maybe hugging knees to chest. And our goal for this posture is lots of support under the low back. And it might be feet on the floor, knees to the ceiling, let the low back be expansive, stay right here. It might be you've got a chair or piece of furniture that you can put your legs up and over, low back presses into the mat. Or it might be a bridge pose here, supported bridge pose, pressing into both feet, lifting the low back off the floor, sliding something underneath it. And if there's a pinching sensation, or it feels like you're kind of hanging off or on, or just not feeling totally supported at the low back, remove what you've got. Keep the low back on the floor, feet on the ground. Just have a really steady foundation under you, whether you're directly on the floor or on something propping you up. And let yourself get heavy here. Maybe making small adjustments to enhance your experience. So maybe shoulder blades crawl a little closer together, chest gets more broad, neck gets a little longer, airflow feels easier. Maybe you separate your teeth, move the tongue, soften the eyebrows. Maybe tilting your head gets you to a better spot. You can scan each part of your body, making contact with your mat or the floor. You are supported and held here. And that might make you recall or consider other areas in your life, other people or things that hold or support you. If you want to explore any variations on this pose, you could be a little creative. Maybe feet go out, maybe legs go up. Maybe hands come to chest or belly. Maybe head drops to either side. If your hips are up on a prop, I invite you to draw your belly button into your spine slightly, just to protect the low back. Lift the hips, remove any items. Hips come back down to the mat. If you've got your legs up against the wall or a piece of furniture, go ahead and slide it away. As feet are on the floor, you can bring knees side to side, windshield wiper. Again, you've got some choice here. Do you let your hips drop side to side, your whole spine twist? Maybe your shoulders come off the mat. It's less windshield wiper and more just kind of barrel rolling side to side. But these are all the places where you have a little bit of choice how you want to experience your world. Okay, if there's any other postures you want to take before we find our final rest, a last squeeze, stretch, sound, consideration, go ahead and do that at this time. Decide how you want to take your final rest. And then let go of breath. Any particular expectations. And just be. As we now enter the 6 o'clock hour, I invite you to make your way mindfully and slowly out of your final rest. There's no rush to move. I'll end the Zoom. You don't have to get up. But take your time moving the body again. Moving the breath again. Maybe coming back to that cooling breath. There's no rush at all. If you'd like to join me in one final closing breath together, you can first empty out all your air. Take a big inhale. And wherever you are, open mouth exhale. My name again is Laura.